and welcome to another GCSE Elizabethan England video tutorial. In today's lesson we're going to be looking at the start of the Spanish Armada, Team Spain versus Team England, who was better prepared for battle. Before we start, a quick recap. What had previously caused conflict between England and Spain? There are 6 pictures on the slide. See if you can remember what those causes were. So, the causes were the religious differences between Protestant England and Catholic Spain, Philip II's marriage proposal rejection by Elizabeth, English privateering and incursion on the Spanish monopoly of trade in the New World, or the Americas, the execution of the Catholic monarch Mary Queen of Scots, the papal bull ordering the removal of Elizabeth by Catholics, by the Pope, and finally, England's support for the Dutch revolt, part of Philip's Spanish Empire. Hopefully you've got notes on all of these causes from previous lessons. Hopefully by the end of this tutorial, you'll be able to identify the key individuals involved in the Spanish Armada. You'll be able to explain the plan for invasion put forward by King Philip of Spain, and we'll also be able to start to evaluate the weaknesses in the Spanish invasion force plan. In the next couple of slides, you'll meet the key individuals involved in the Spanish Armada, Spain's attempt to invade and overthrow Protestant England. In your notes, you need to make a brief note on who is who as the video progresses. And as an extension task, can you start to spot any weaknesses in the Spanish team and strengths that might appear in the English team? The first person will hopefully be of no surprise to you, Queen Elizabeth I. Now, at the time of the invasion, she is still Queen of England, she is still Protestant, she is 58 years old, she's still unmarried, and she still has no obvious successor. Mary Queen of Scots has just been executed, and she's ruled England for 30 years, up to the point of the invasion, and has been excommunicated from the Catholic Church by the Pope through the papal bull. Also, as we already know, tensions have been growing between Protestant England and Catholic Spain. The next person to introduce, someone new, Lord Howard. Now, Lord Howard was the Lord High Admiral and the Queen's cousin. Having been involved in stopping the Catholic rebellion in the north of England in 1575, he was knighted in 1572 and made Admiral in charge of the Navy in 1575. He had clearly shown his loyalty time and time again to Elizabeth. There was also a strong bond between him and Sir Francis Drake, who we'll talk about in a moment. The story goes that they were both busy playing bowls on the cliffs of Plymouth when the Armada was sighted. Drake has even said to have remarked, "There is still plenty of time to finish the game and beat the Spanish." Pause the video and make sure you're happy with these two people. The next key people involved in the English team were Sir Francis Drake. As we know from previous videos, he was born in 1540 to humble origins. He was a strict Puritan and he had taken part in many transatlantic voyages from a young age. He became a famous privateer, circumnavigated the globe, and was knighted on his boat, the Spanish Hind. He was hated by the Spanish for his looting. He was known as El Draca, and he was the second in command of the English Navy, and came up with several innovative ideas to assist in dealing with them. The final person to introduce was a relative of Sir Francis Drake, John Hawkins. Another main English naval commander, he made great riches through the slave trade. On his last voyage, though, he lost many men and riches to the Spanish. Perhaps maybe as a part of a revenge, he turned to designing new ships for the Navy, using his experiences of previous Spanish attacks. Again, make sure you pause the video and have made brief notes on the key individuals in the English Navy before we move on to the Spanish. Now, the key people involved in the Spanish team was Philip II, King of Spain. Now, Philip II wasn't just King of Spain, he was the King of Portugal, the area of Naples. He had previously been considered the King of England in his eyes, being married to Mary, and had also had an element of rule in Ireland. He was formerly married to Elizabeth's half-sister Mary and believed he had claims to the English crown. He owned a vast empire spanning well into Central Europe, including the area of the Netherlands. He was a proud Catholic and saw himself as a defender of Catholic Europe. Now, a very important individual, but who will play no part in the Spanish Armada, was a guy called Santa Cruz. Now, he was a Spanish admiral, and according to the Spanish sources, he had never been defeated in a 50-year career. He wanted to go to war with England much earlier. Now, he unfortunately dies before the Armada was launched, some suggesting under the unjustified criticism from the king after a key event we'll look at in a future video, the singeing of the king's beard. But what dies with Santa Cruz is his vast experience of organising the Spanish Navy. Pause the video and make sure you've got notes on these two individuals. The final two people to introduce you to are the Duke of Medina, Sidonia. Now, he was the replacement for Santa Cruz after he died. He was a wealthy Spanish nobleman. He was known to be a capable soldier, perhaps more famous for his administration skills, his ability to run local government. But crucially, he had no experience of fighting at sea, yet he was instructed to be in charge of the Armada as it sailed to England. He tried to turn down the position offered. It is said that he even claimed to suffer from seasickness so as not to launch the Armada. The final person to introduce you to is the Duke of Parma. Now, he was the nephew of Philip of Spain. He was the governor, the person in charge of the Spanish Netherlands, and he was an expert military leader. He was in charge of the land army, which the Armada would collect and transfer across to England, which we will see in the plan on the next slide. Pause the video and make sure you are clear on who these key people are. So what was Philip's plan? Well, two plans which were initially proposed to Philip, he elected to merge into what he would call his grand strategy. The plan was for the Armada to sail up the English Channel in order to meet up with the Spanish army of 30,000 men in the Netherlands, headed by the Duke of Parma. The troops would be picked up by the ship, assist them to cross the Channel and capture the ports on the south coast. So you'll note that the land army was separate to the actual Armada itself. The Armada would carry supplies and a lot of Catholic priests to help with the invasion. Now, once they had met at the rendezvous point in the Netherlands, the invasion force would be transferred across to England and march on London. The English Catholics were also expected to rise up in the rebellion in support of the Spanish, forcing Elizabeth off the throne. What I'd like you to do is make your own diagram and written account of the plan. Don't worry if you're not an expert at drawing maps, but essentially if you've got the gist of it, it is really, really important. I'd then like you to think, can you spot any problems with Philip's grand strategy? Think about issues of communication. Think about the people who are in charge of certain key roles from the previous slides, and what problems might arise from the Armada launch. So our final thoughts on this video. The resources at King Philip's disposal were far greater than that of England. But the plan put together for the invasion of England had many problems, including the timing of the land army uniting with the Armada. And as we'll see in the next lesson, there were several reasons why the Spanish Armada ultimately failed. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found this video useful.